Hi, my name is David Fleming from Disciples Ignited. We're studying Bible-inspired prayer, and we're looking specifically at the Lord's Prayer. And today we're going to look once again at Matthew chapter 6, verse 12. Let me read that to you. Jesus taught us to pray this, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. Now that means that if we want God to forgive us for our sins, we have got to forgive others for the things that they have done against us. In fact, Jesus was so clear on this that he taught a parable in Matthew chapter 18, emphasizing the importance of our forgiveness given to others. It's called the parable of the unmerciful servant. Now, let me try to summarize this for you. In this parable, there was a servant that was called in by his master because he owed millions and millions and millions of dollars to his master, and the master wanted him to repay it. And this is what happened. At this, the servant fell on his knees before him. "Be patient with me," he begged, "and I will pay back everything." The servant's master took pity on him, canceled the debt, and let him go. And what did that servant do as soon as he got away from his master? Listen to this. Matthew chapter 18, verse 28 tells us, "But when that servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 silver coins." Now, the comparison on what this servant owed him and what he had just been forgiven in his debt is incomparable. It was like he had been forgiven a insurmountable debt that he would never be able to repay, and this was just nothing compared to it. But this is what he did. He grabbed him and began to choke him. "Pay back what you owe me," he demanded. But his fellow servant fell to his knees and begged him, "Be patient with me, and I will pay it back." Doesn't that sound familiar? That's just what he said to his master. And his master forgave him. He canceled the debt. But he refused. Instead, he went off and had the man thrown into prison until he could pay back the debt. Well, that's not the end of the parable. It went on, and this is how Jesus ended it. Then the master called the servant in. "You wicked servant," he said, "I canceled all that debt of yours because you begged me to. Shouldn't you have had mercy on your fellow servant just as I had on you?" In anger, his master handed him over to the jailers to be tortured until he should pay back all he owed. Jesus is emphasizing that if we want to be forgiven for our sins, we have got to forgive others for when they do us wrong. This is so important that Jesus said, "You will not be forgiven. My Father will not forgive you if you go to him with unforgiveness towards others." Why is this so important? Well, for many reasons, but the major one is this. When we are unwilling to forgive others, we're showing God that we don't really understand how much he is forgiving us, or what we're asking him to forgive. The sins that we have committed against God are insurmountable. They are a debt that we would never be able to repay. Now, that doesn't mean that the sins that others have done against us are nothing. But it does mean that there is nothing that anyone could ever do against us that could compare to what we have done to God. To forgive us of our sins, it required for God to give his very own son, Jesus, to be sacrificed on the cross, his blood to be shed, so that we could be cleansed and forgiven for our sins. There's no comparison. And so when we come to God, we've got to be willing to forgive others, because that shows, first of all, Father, I realize that to forgive my sins you had to give your very own son, your very best. But what do we do if we just don't have it within us to forgive somebody else? We want to forgive them, but every time we think that we have forgiven them and their name is mentioned, ooh, we just cringe inside. Well, obviously, there's something wrong. That shows that we haven't really forgiven them, doesn't it? So what do we do? Well, we're going to talk about that tomorrow because that is something that we've got to learn how to deal with. So join with me tomorrow and we're going to learn how to forgive others. See you then.